Good evening. You're listening to the Xtreme Movie Show. I'm your host, Rob. Tonight's episode, Xtreme TV. Tonight, we're covering Season 1, Episode 6 of the 1970s. Very influential, quite a foundational type TV show, Kolchak, the Night Stalker. This one's about some sort of arsonist, doppelganger, weirdo, kind of really bad effects on screen. And maybe it looks like In Search of Leonard Nimoy, some spontaneous combustion nonsense. Because, gentlemen, I'm not going to say I hated this episode. I'm going to sit there and say while I was watching it, I kind of liked it because they dialed down the stupid Vincenzo nonsense. But I want him to kill his partner there with the mustache, whoever the hell his name is, I can't remember.
Updike.
Whatever. I just murder him, Kolchak. I mean, it was distracting from the adventure horror fantasy that I love in Kolchak. There's a ton of voiceover work. So there's a lot of interesting elements about the show, but it was kind of just odd even for Kolchak. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but it's a little bizarre. Am I wrong?
Well, listen, going over these episodes, the most important thing to me is that the villain of the week, the monster of the week, makes sense. What the hell is happening? We had a guy that died, and basically he looked like a copy of this famous
whacked in a penny arcade.
Yep. And apparently that makes it so that he can look like the man he wants to become after he dies and take over his body. It's really an odd episode. Last week we had the werewolf and all the information, even with the kind of bad makeup they had for the werewolf, it's still all synced with lore, and it made absolute sense, even though it was stationed on the Love Boat. This one, I have no idea. I was watching it, and I was trying to make sure I was.
I agree with you.
Yeah, you had this gypsy lady who's trying to explain.
His soul crossed paths when the guy cut off the what you want to call the funeral envoy, the casket.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, and what it was is that the spirit became envious of this guy's life. This guy had it made, where he was a low-life goon, so he wanted to take over the guy's life. As you said, he's like, this guy, as I took on the form of a doppelganger, they want to take over. He started bumping off all his friends, and he wanted Ryder Bond's, life. Especially, and you learn more about this too. Is at the end scene when we get to it, Kolchak even dresses as you'll never be Ryder Bond.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it is. It's basically, if you're watching the show and you had no idea what the hell was going on, especially back then, this guy who's a bad dude, he's an arsonist, gets whacked. So he's the spirit of an arsonist. And as you get the funeral procession going on the highway, you have this really talented conductor, musician, prodigy kind of guy who gets cut off accidentally. But because they were so close and all that, it's one of those things where the spirit said, let me try to inhabit this person. And then anybody came in contact with them or like that, once they fell asleep, they would spontaneously combust into flames, not burn anything else, but just their body. I think that was their way of trying to work in a lot of the spiritual type phenomenon that was getting more mainstream type coverage in the 70s, because by now you had, with the 60s being over, you had a lot of, like I say, Satanism. You had a lot of alternative type medicine and theories becoming mainstream in TV and everywhere else. And that's just, I think they just tried to make it fit into this episode, because I got to tell you, the stuff I really liked about this episode had absolutely 100% nothing to do with the actual plot of the episode. Kolchak goes and he sees, where this body gets murdered in this nice apartment building. And there's this old lady with a dog that kind of craftily worms his way into having a conversation with her to figure out some stuff. But what popped me was you see how back then, you had wood floors in a really, really nice room like what you saw there. But in the hallways, you had the carpeting, whatever. But you also had, because everybody smoked in the 70s. Everybody smoked in the 70s. You had all the ashtrays out there in the hallway too, and I'm like, man, this thing's just a fire trap. I mean, but it actually goes with the theme of the show because of the spontaneous combustion. And The other comment I have to make too, guys, and again, I'm meandering because I didn't really care about the plot in this one, is this show, and maybe it's something with 70s TV shows, because I didn't see a lot of them. I'm going to have to go back and check some out. There's a lot of natural, beautiful women in the show. Every episode seems to have they're natural, they're gorgeous.
One of them actually has a role after this. Became, not just, back in the 90s, it was kind of a big role for her. Felicia Porter, who was supposed to be the role, that's the role of, was the girl like she's the one in the bikini, and she was the one by the pool, and then she
blew up the pool side.
She's the one that got hot.
She is. Yeah, she is.
That's actually Patricia Estrin, who ended up becoming Alice Mitchell in Dennis the Mitchell movie. There's a Dennis the Menace movie.
Oh, okay.
She was also part of that really cringy 1974 movie called Act of Vengeance, which is was also known as they're the Rape Squad. A girl gets raped, and these group of women band together to go down, take down rapists. But yeah, so she was actually a known actress that was in there. They threw in there. I'm looking through some of the other ones. I don't really recognize any of the other ones. I know the guy who played the Cardinal, David Doyle, has been in some other stuff too. He's played. He was on Charlie's Angels. He played the role of John Bosley.
Yes, he was. Yes. God, that's right. He looks so.
And Virginia Vincent, also known for playing Ethel Carter in the Hills of Eyes. And then we had Carol Ann Susie, who would become well known as be the voice of Mrs. Wowitz on the CBS comedy The Big Bang Theory.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
She's there a few episodes, though.
Yeah.
What do we think? Anything we want to talk about specifically about this episode?
Well, I like I said, I love the fact that Kolchak is going through this. He's trying to every time somebody starts on fire, he's in the wrong spot, and you got the what's his name, the Sergeant Mayor, basically, it's the normal trope they keep doing. Kolchak's the knowing reporter, even though he's the one that knows what's going on. He's got to do it. I love his interaction with the sergeants. I don't care who they are, and as you progress, once we get to later episodes in the series, you're going to realize that they all talk. Apparently, all the sergeants have gone through, they all know Kolchak. They all have a word for him.
Yeah, small world. Yeah.
It's I like the fact, the spontaneous combustion, that's not really, it's more of a science fiction thing, supernatural. So as we covered, was it episode 5, and the werewolf, we've already had the vampire. Why not have a ghost? This is, like I said, this is getting more into the X-Files stuff like this too.
Listen, I really do. I like ghosts as a antagonist figure for the episode. The problem was that it made absolutely no damn sense.
That a ghost would exist?
No. That he looks just like the person that he wants to become, rather than his own body. And that he even if he was an arsonist, why the hell would his touch suddenly light people on fire as soon as they fall asleep? It's one of those things, and I do like the show. I absolutely love the actors in it. I love their interaction. Watching Kolchak as he's trying to basically stay awake for 3 days, it was absolutely entertaining. But when it came to the monster this week, it needed some touching up, honestly. You definitely get elements that you can see transfer into other shows, but it needed, I don't know, just some more.
I'm going to respectfully disagree with you, because you don't believe, sir. You are anti-ghost supernatural. Yes. And pyrokinesis has been recorded throughout history. Yes, spontaneous combustion. The fact there's a ghost in here, and it really looks like he's trying to become Ryder Bond. So of course he's gonna play with Ryder Bond's mind and make everybody think that Ryder Bond, is responsible for this. Kolchak sees this. So, and at this point, I said as soon as Ryder Bond, I believe, and I strongly believe this, if Ryder Bond would have fallen asleep, this ghost would have went in his body and possessed him and took him over.
Yeah, because that was the plot. That was explained to us.
Yes, but if you reject the plot, then you reject the show, and therefore you insult the fans, my friend.
Oh well, I'm sorry.
You are a poor reviewer.
The plot's absolutely understandable. The details surrounding it just were too much of a mess. It needed cleaning up, and it sadly wasn't.
What would you recommend, sir? Less ghosts?
No, I would have recommended actually making the ghost its own person, because I'm pretty sure even the corpse, we didn't get a clear look on his face, but he looked pretty dang close to Ryder Bond.
I gotta let you know on something. This is the 70s. It's a TV show. It has a small budget, so maybe they couldn't afford to pay the other guy. It was easier just to do this. So either you accept it or you don't accept it. There's no in between. There's no I like this, but this could be better. I think it's meant. I can't
forgive major oversight like that.
I think it's meant pure and perfecto.
Well, we're going to
One
have
of the things about the show. Well, this happened last week too about the show, and the thing about Kolchak that we've already stated is why we enjoy it. We understand how it is, and it's television. That the show is so difficult to capture just how awesome the two TV movies were. I mean, those were movie theater quality movies, and people think TV movies are, well, that's TV. Just because you slap 2 hours together and make a movie doesn't make it a real movie. The Kolchak movies were fantastic, and yes, there's a format that has to get fit in to. I think some of the writing could have been rehashed a little bit to make this a bit more clear to the audience member, because it really wasn't. You really have to pay attention to almost everything they're saying. And here's another thing too that I think is somewhat noticeable from television to 70s now. The writing was a lot more point. You had a lot more words than you do now, or because now if you do, it's just people spouting off theories, and it's just half the time SJJ stuff, covered up behind whatever they're talking about, not really serving the purpose of the plot of the story. Here you got a lot more voiceover work, which maybe they went back and redid, but maybe with the editing process it didn't work and they had to throw the episode out, because that's the big thing about the show. It only had the one season because of the lack of money spent on it and everything, and the rewrites and the choppy edits and how out of order some of the episodes, the way it was streamed came into place too. And Darren McGavin himself was involved heavily in a lot of that. So I can see where after one season, it's like, yeah, this show's not worth trying to go on because there's no quality control in it, which you have to have. And this episode, to me, based off of what we watched, I didn't think it was horrible. I did feel it was missing some more stuff that could have made it clear. But to me, out of all the episodes so far, I could definitely see where people say, okay, there's a few loose episodes that don't work or may not fit. And I just think this is one of them. It's watchable, though, and entertaining.
I like this quote by Kolchak in it. He said, September 9th, 5:30 p.m., I was faced with two equally unpleasant possibilities. One, that some sort of horrible freak note was being played in the brain of Ryder Bond, and he was setting fire to his fellow man. Or two, to paraphrase Mr. Cardinal, something inexplicable was happening that perhaps I really did not want to know about. Unfortunately, a reporter is paid to find out things whether he wants to know about them or not. And as I was to be taught once again, there are nicer ways to make a living. Far nicer.
Yeah, if he didn't have the voiceover work in here, or it was just like a lot of stuff shows had laugh tracks back in the day, which just totally ruined it for me. It works, whatever he's doing. He could just do some voiceover work and be like, we could see a day in the life of Kolchak, not really investigating anything, or maybe writing a stupid piece. We'd want to watch it because he's that engaging. It's just we, like the spiritual part to it that they have, and just in this episode, it didn't work.
Yes, for me. Looking back now, of course, people are going to say, "Well, they don't like this as hokey," but originally back then, this was cutting edge.
Yeah, and some of the shots of the doppelganger that you see is just little camera tricks. I mean, they're really no more advanced than what Star Trek might have had like in the 60s or whatever, the original show. And so some of them look okay, some of them look kind of weird, some of them look kind of creepy, and it's not unsettling, like scary. it just looks odd for like primetime TV, but I'm not saying it doesn't work. It's just different. Like in the last episode, there was the cheesiness of the werewolf and the way he looked, but it fit for what it was. And here it is sometimes hard to do a ghost that you just literally see an apparition. You know, you're not seeing, you know, a real life person saying, "Oh, I'm a ghost," like you would in a gothic horror novel or something.
To me, like, you know, watching this the first time I watched it, this was creepy. Because it is because, well, the way the guy's, you know, creeping around like an imp, he's like, you know, I'm gonna kill you. I can't get in the church, but I'm gonna get you eventually.
Yeah.
And I love how, like, you know, because all he's waiting on it is for Kolchak, you know, to fail, or like I said, at this time, Ryder Bond, you know, was actually in the church. He couldn't get, so the spirit couldn't get into the church. It's a holy site, so he can't.
It's consecrated ground.
Yeah. So he couldn't get in. And I liked how the doctor came down. I was trying to give Kolchak life. He's like, you know, I was like, and he's like, well, wait, has he done anything wrong? Is it committed any crimes? No. Is it against the law for him to be in the church? No. You know, it's like, and even the sergeant said, it's like, well, if he wants to be here, he can be here. You know, he's not here being held hostage. You know. Yeah. So I love how, like, you know, she kind of walked away. Oh, whatever. It's like, come here. So like I said, it just goes to show you that Kolchak gets those small little wins in each episode. I love it. It's just like somebody thinks they know better than him, and he just turns around and he's like, well, you're an idiot. it's like somebody else wants to do anything, I'm forced to do it. Kolchak can easily walk away, but his conscience, you know, and plus he wants a story. He wants that story.
Stories that he can never share.
Yes. Like I said, how is this any less believable than the alien one?
I know. I think it is. I think the alien one was, while strange and it was confusing at times, it at least was pretty clear on the alien front. This is supposed to be something that's from Earth. This isn't some otherworldly being.
But I didn't find this confusing at all. Maybe you didn't pay attention to it.
I was paying attention, man. I watch supernatural things all the time, and not just the show Supernatural.
Really?
Well, it's easy for when you have two characters on screen talking back and forth to speak to the audience, and you always get those scenes where, you know, you're walking to the car or somewhere, and you're basically just spouting off nonsense so people can get kind of caught up on stuff. Kind of like if you said previously on Kolchak, or it's just. So here, having to rely on him, it's a little bit of a different watch than most other shows too. So, yeah, yes, it sounds like I'm playing the fence on both sides. But like I say, I just felt it was a bit odd of an episode, the way they did it. The tone of it was very subdued, and maybe it's because there wasn't a lot of yelling with Vincenzo or whatever. I mean, I think for me, you know, let's do this. Let's talk about our favorite scene in the film, because other than the bikini lady getting smoked out by the pool, which I thought was funny, I really popped for the scene where Kolchak's going back to the office there, and he's looking for some files. And it turns out, while he's arguing with the guy that narked on him, who I despise him, Kolchak's looking in the giant file organizer thing. Back then, you know, your manila folders and all that stuff too. It's not digitized, obviously, from the early 70s. They're in like the men's room, and I guess they have so many files because that's what you had. You would have cutouts and slips. You need to organize them. They're sitting there, and the file cabinet looks like it's there in the men's room. I'm like, am I seeing this right? There's some stalls. There's some urinals. I'm like, okay, whatever. I just wanted to share that because that was 50 years old and kind of cool looking to me.
Well, I have to say my favorite scene of the episode is actually when Kolchak goes back to the office and he is so tired that that they're trying to get him down. He hasn't slept in days. He's going insane. And Ron, while yes, he needs to die, he's saying, well, we might not just need to lock him in the crazy bin, you know, if he really needs help if he believes some ghost is going around.
Yeah, any Kolchak fans out there knows Ron has to die. I mean, even to this day, I'm mad about that.
Ron has to die.
Any final comments from you there, RDV?
I want to touch on something that was really like out there, because when I first watched this, I noticed right at the end where he's going to basically burn down their arcade.
Yeah.
He lights the Indian statue on fire first. Probably no ill meaning towards anything like. But that's how it's funny because you remember everybody you go into the Ashlands, people would have those wooden, Native American chiefs, and they'd probably have they sell like the cigars or something, or maybe whatever they had.
The old cigar Indian.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
But
He's burning crosses in one episode, Indians in the next. What else is there?
This show is outrage. No, it's hot babes being lit on fire, burning Indians, burning crosses. I am deeply offended on all counts. No, leave the women alone.
Yeah, I think again the show. Not all the episodes are going to be great necessarily, unless it's Twin Peaks. But for right now, it's kind of like it's there. It's not horrible. You're not going to get offended if you watch it, but
I just laughed at it.
I still like it.
Because realistically, Kolchak would be in jail. He lit an arcade on fire and just walks out as the cops show up. I don't know.
But he doesn't mind. He's just going. As he's drifting off, he's voicing over. I think I'm just gonna get some rest in the slammer.
Like I said, I love the small jokes. I love the Mustang, and I just love the music, and the score and everything. The Monster Week doesn't really do it. Doesn't hurt the story for me. In fact, what I like that they have a little bit of subplot building up towards the end, but sadly they don't. Yeah, I think this show could actually give Supernatural a run for its money if they would have actually had a subplot going.
Maybe. It's not a weak show, but it's definitely a good example of 70s shows too. And the thing about it is, not many shows to this point have tackled spontaneous combustion in such a way where they fit it into modern day times. That's one of the positive things I like to say about Kolchak is that, again, it's cutting edge. It may not seem like it when you watch it, but like I say, there's a lot of city shots setting you up, even though they filmed a lot of it in Los Angeles, of course. They have all the stuff from Chicago. So you actually, at the beginning, are reminded, yep, this is in Chicago. And it's just a great little, okay, I'm going to check my brain for an hour of the week. It's something to look forward to because you're like, you know what? It's going to be something along the lines of the supernatural or goofy or monstery. And I think that can appeal to the child and all of us, but especially as a guy. We like detective stuff and investigative stuff. Him as a reporter. And reporter then is not nearly what a reporter is today. It's not even the same thing.
Yeah, when I go back to 70s T shows, I go back to Kolchak and Incredible Hulk with Bill Bixby. Both phenomenal actors, leads.
Yeah, I agree.
Supporting cast.
Well, there you have, ladies and gentlemen.
Isn't fake news.
Yeah, we had to go a whole stream without saying that.
Wow.
Kolchak episode 6, Firefall from Night Stalker from the 70s. Check it out. Let us know what you think. Check out also another one of people who are listening to us that we're doing recently, Twin Peaks season 1, episode 6, the original show. Is getting ready to drop there as well too, and we're getting ready for a very special Point Break Keanu Reeves.
I just gotta say one thing. I think our buddy over there, Night Talker, he plays the French horn.
He needs to die. All right, on that note, guys, thanks for listening. I'm your host, Rob, here with the Xtreme Movie Show, saying good night from RDV and Professor Pixel. Have a good night, and as always, stay extreme. Take care.
Later, guys. I want to believe